What's happening, everybody? On today's show, we are going to go around the conference with some injury updates, including TJ Finley officially ruled out for Auburn against LSU. AJ McCarron says Bryan Harsin's fate has already been decided, and a bunch of coaches just gushing over how good their opponents are this week. Also, we'll take a look at some of the SEC Week 5 games with our buddy Lynn Scarbrough of Lindy Sports. Locked on SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what is happening, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, it is where the game starts. Welcome into the show. I'm Chris Cordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Remember, Locked On SEC is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube and at LockedOnSEC.com. Let's jump into it. Let's go around the conference.
Boots out to the right. Intercept. Takes the handoff. Throws in front of the ball. What a catch.
Around the conference.
We start over at Auburn as TJ Finley battling a shoulder injury and is reportedly set to miss another game this week as Auburn plays host to LSU. Finley dealing with a grade 2 AC sprain in his right shoulder. That's from Tom Green of AL.com. Still unclear on when he will be able to return to the field. Injured his shoulder late in the first half of Auburn's loss to Penn State back on September 17th. Finley started Auburn's first 3 games, missed the game last week against Mizzou as they turned to Robbie Ashford. It'll be once again Robbie Ashford this weekend. Bryan Harsin said, Robbie has continued to practice well, feel good about our practice and some of the things we're doing with that position in particular. Harsin also was asked about safety Donovan Kaufman, who missed the Mizzou game. He said he just wasn't able to go last week, tried to work through it, wasn't able to get the reps during the week of practice he needed to. He's day-to-day, but barring any setbacks, he should be okay. Auburn has controlled this series against LSU recently. LSU only winning twice on the Plains since 2010, winning in 2012 and 2018. Auburn's won 2 straight in the series. Now, former Alabama quarterback A.J. McCarron, he's now doing a little media. He's doing some shows on Saturdays, talking college football, bouncing around on some podcasts. And this week, he was on the Ringer podcast where he said, quote, "From my sources over there, Bryan Harsin's already been told he's done after this year." McCarron went on to say that Harsin was told this following the double-digit loss to Penn State earlier in the month. But it does look like that information not exactly correct. According to a report from AL.com, sources have indicated that Bryan Harsin has not been told his job status is in danger or that the two parties will be going their separate ways when this season ends. So, look, handwriting's kind of on the wall. If Bryan Harsin doesn't have a good season, he's going to be gone. But maybe a little premature for A.J. McCarron to put out there. Yeah, I've been told Harsin's already been told he's gone after this year. Again, you could make guesses, but if he starts winning games, it's gonna be hard to fire the guy if he goes 8-4, right? Meanwhile, on the flip side of this game, Brian Kelly talking on the coaches media teleconference on Wednesday, talking about his quarterback Jaden Daniels and his improvement week to week. He said just more comfortable with the offense itself. Remember now, he was in a completely different offensive structure at Arizona State. He said, I used this word the other day. He's become more decisive. When you're decisive, the ball comes out and you move more efficiently. LSU also revealing they will be without offensive guard Garrett Dellinger, recovering from a broken hand. He had surgery this week. Brian Kelly said, at first we thought we could get him ready, but there's a plate and a screw in his hand. And as of today, I'd say he's doubtful for this weekend. Kelly said that Miles Frazier probably going to be the guy sliding in at left guard for LSU. The Tigers will travel to Auburn, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, kickoff on ESPN. Meanwhile, over in Oxford, Lane Kiffin getting ready for a big matchup against number 7 Kentucky. And Kentucky running back Chris Rodriguez back from his suspension, being suspended the first 4 games of the season. Lane Kiffin said, obviously that's huge for them, getting a guy fresh who has played that position a lot. It's very challenging. We're going to have to play the run a lot better than we did a week ago. Now, as for facing Will Levis, Lane Kiffin said, I think he's really accurate. He moves around to get himself out of trouble. He looks like a really composed veteran quarterback. One other note from this game, Kentucky linebacker Jaquez Jones, who played the first part of his career at Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin saying Jaquez played really well when he was here, and he's gotten a lot better. We're going to have our hands full with him. Jones piled up 86 tackles for Kentucky last year, already has 26 and a sack through 4 games this year. And on the flip side, it's Mark Stoops talking about his team and what they got to do. He said, look, we're excited to get Chris Rodriguez back. He's a really good football player who has a lot of experience. We've had inconsistency in the running game. Chris just needs to be him, shouldn't be too rusty. Now, Stoops is equally concerned about trying to slow down the Ole Miss run attack, averaging more than 280 yards per game, one of the tops in the country. Stoops said it's difficult. They're committed to it. They're powerful runners with an offensive line that's doing a very good job of working together. They put a lot of stress on you. You have to win some one-on-ones the way they put you in space. Definitely a very big challenge. It'll be the early game, 11 a.m. Central, 12 Eastern, Saturday morning on ESPN right after College Game Day. Meanwhile, Alabama getting ready for their road trip out to Arkansas to take on number 20 Razorbacks. And Alabama concerned about trying to slow down quarterback KJ Jefferson. Nick Saban talking about him on the coaches teleconference Wednesday. Asked if there's a comparison to KJ Jefferson. Saban said, not really. The guy's pretty unique. Does a really good job of executing what they want to do on offense. Pretty unique guy. Big, physical, hard to tackle, hard to sack. I have a tremendous amount of respect for how he plays. Saban also asked about the Arkansas receiving corps. He said, look, they got 3 or 4 guys now who are very capable of making plays, and they get the ball spread around pretty good to all those guys. During the game against Vandy last week, Alabama did lose 2 key defenders to injuries. Defensive lineman Byron Young sprained his ankle, while defensive back Jordan Battle injured his right leg on Wednesday. Saban said, hopefully they're both going to be ready for this game on Saturday, but it's day-to-day on both of them. Now, meanwhile, on the other side, Sam Pittman, the Razorbacks, coming off that heartbreaking loss to A&M, but no time to feel sorry for yourself. Time to bounce back and play the Alabama Crimson Tide. Obviously, KJ Jefferson's fumble at the goal line last week, one of the big plays that turned the momentum of the game. Sam Pittman talking about it on the teleconference this week and said KJ Jefferson's going to bounce back from that. He said, look, he had a lot of really good plays as well. Anytime you have elite players on your team, not a whole lot you could say to them, to be honest. You saw him after that play trying to play his heart out. I think you'll be fine. The bottom line is we just made a lot of mistakes. Now, Pittman also talked about the challenge of playing Alabama. He said, look, you got to play a really clean game. Can't turn the ball over. Have to convert situational football. You cannot make mistakes. As for one player who's really excited for this game, it's Drew Sanders, the linebacker who transferred to Arkansas from Alabama last offseason. Sanders has been really good. He played predominantly outside linebacker at Alabama. Now he plays more inside at Arkansas. Sam Pittman said that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to play more on the inside, wanted to play inside there, and we certainly had opportunities to give him that. Of course, we're using on the edge as well. Sanders, great start through 4 games at Arkansas, 31 tackles, 5.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. It's the CBS 2:30 Central, 3:30 Eastern game on Saturday afternoon, Arkansas at Alabama. Meanwhile, over at Mississippi State, Mike Leach and company preparing for Texas A&M this weekend. Mike Leach asked about the Aggies. He said, oh, well, they're pretty explosive when they want to be. They got a pretty good quarterback, a really good running back, some explosive skill players, very athletic. And he said, the defense, not too shabby either. He said, I think it's the way they run to the ball. They got tall, long guys who are good at running to the ball. Now, one guy at Mississippi State is going to be missing, linebacker Deshaun Page, undergoing successful leg surgery on Wednesday. Left the game last week against Bowling Green. It's unknown how long he is going to be out. He did post on his Instagram page, small setback. On the other side of the ball, Jimbo Fisher and the Aggies. Jimbo talking this week said he likes what he's seen so far out of his quarterback, Max Johnson, in terms of improving that quarterback spot for the Aggies. He said he's come in, has a lot of experience. He's taking care of the football really well, making some big plays when he needs to. People don't realize he can run, make plays with his legs as well, getting better each week. As for Will Rogers, Jimbo Fisher said, well, first of all, he has a great grasp of that air raid offense. He knows where he's going with the football, great decision maker, great pocket presence as well. That air raid, is a certain set of plays they run. A lot of people run them. It's not a lot of deviation from that thing. They'll adjust, make calls as they go. All the routes, shape, some way, shape, or form, we have them. They just stay to them exclusively, but everybody kind of has those routes. So Jimbo kind of downplaying a little bit of what the air raid presents. Now over at Georgia, Kirby Smart, they're taking their team on the road to Mizzou on Saturday night. Bulldogs coming off of a win against Kent State. As for the Missouri quarterback, Brady Cook, Jimbo said, look, he's a really good athlete, got the ability to run, do a lot of things in the pocket. They already are a good running team, but when you add a quarterback who can run and throw the ball, it creates problems for you. Now, Kirby also updating some injuries. Wide receiver Ladd McConkey, he said it's a volume issue, not really an injury that was sustained. Dealing with a foot thing this week. He's been much better. Last week, we shut him down a couple of days. He's been pretty good this week, getting lots of treatment on it. As for tight end Eric Gilbert, when are we going to see him? Kirby Smart saying AG has been practicing with us, continues to do that. He'll be day-to-day each day. We're hoping he can contribute to our team this year. Smart also said defensive lineman Jalen Carter is getting close to working his way back onto the field. On the other side of the ball against Georgia, it is the Mizzou Tigers. Eli Drinkwitz was asked about what his team will have to do to bounce back from such a tough loss at Auburn this past weekend. He said, look, football is like life. You deal with situations in life and you have to keep moving forward. You can't dwell on it. Disappointment and losses in this world are not unique to us. If you dwell on it, it hurts you for any future adversity or opportunity that you have. That game will be played Saturday night, Georgia at Mizzou. Over at South Carolina, Shane Beamer and his company, they're getting ready for a Thursday night game against South Carolina State, that game being moved up because of Hurricane Ian. Shane Beamer also asked about trying to speed up the length of games because so many college football games are running so long. He said, look, I am all for ways to continue speeding up the lengths of some of these football games. And lastly, Billy Napier over at Florida, talking with the media. They are preparing for their game, moved to Sunday because of the hurricane. Billy Napier talking about the hurricane having impact. He said, I think probably the most important thing for us is get through these next couple of days safely. When we get through this storm, we can start having conversations about what game day is going to look like on Sunday for us. So one little note for the Florida Gators, little depth chart change. Safety Kamari Wilson, freshman safety Kamari Wilson, getting the starting nod after the Gators struggled in their secondary this past week to slow down Tennessee. Also, sophomore Jaden Hill getting the nod at corner. So that is the latest news going on around the conference. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, our conversation with Lynn Scarbrough of Lindy's Sports. Our weekly guest will join us in just a second. But first, want to remind you guys about our friends over at BetOnline, betonline.net, your number one source for football betting throughout this season. You could get all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every game. You can find it over at BetOnline. They remain your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. Go check them out right now, BetOnline. They got all the SEC games up there this weekend. If you're looking to get in on the action, they've got that there for you. They got everything from Alabama at Arkansas. They got A&M at Mississippi State. If you feel a certain way on either game, why don't you go take advantage of it? BetOnline has everything you need to get started. Head on over to BetOnline. You can do so on your mobile device, learn about everything that they've got going for you. It is BetOnline, and it is where the game starts. Continue on here, Locked On SEC, and one of our favorite segments every week is catching up with our buddy Lynn Scarbrough of Lindy Sports, and he joins us right now. Lynn, welcome in, man. I guess, how are you?
Hey, guys. Doing well.
All right. Well, Lynn, let's just jump right into it. I'm sure the fight song has been playing all week on Rocky Top as the Tennessee Vols finally win that rivalry game with the Florida Gators. They get that monkey off their back. A big win for the Vols this past week. They're probably still playing Rocky Top up there in Knoxville.
And did you know that that's not their fight song? Their fight song is called Down the Field. Now, they play Rocky Top just like Georgia plays Glory, Glory to Old Georgia. And people think, but Georgia's fight song is called Between the Hedges. And just a little trivia there is everybody, of course, associates Rocky Top with Tennessee, and they should, but they've got another fight song called "Down the Field." When we get off the air, when y'all got a minute, go in and you can YouTube it or Google it or whatever, and you can actually hear their fight song. I would, if I knew the words, I'd sing it. That's probably not what I need to do.
All right, we'll continue on with Lynn Scarbrough. Lynn, let's. I'll check it out when I get done. But give me your thoughts on the Vols. Hendon Hooker has looked fantastic for Tennessee in that Josh Heupel offense so far.
Well, yeah, Tennessee has the number one total offense in the country. They're averaging, I think, 593 yards or something like that per ball game. Hendon Hooker is number 7 in the country in total offense. They have an outstanding, really outstanding is not even fair enough. I mean, they're a great offensive team. Defensively, they're not as good, but they're still okay. I mean, they're good enough that they're sitting there at 4-0. And hey, and Tennessee, they're off this week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. LSU's week is next week. After this, and Chris, your guys are in a position to really, it's a significant game at Auburn.
Go beat Auburn
Saturday. I think your guys will win because Auburn's got just so many issues, and not having anything to do with all this controversy over Harsin. Is Auburn's in a bad situation.
They're on their third center.
That's exactly. Oh, their center's not even a center. They lost Brom. Nick Brom was going to be having his third year as a starter. I voted Nick Brom first at media days. I voted Nick Brom first team All SEC center. I think he finished third team in the voting, but he was the captain of the offensive line, and so he goes down and he's lost his career's over, and so then they bring in the only other center they had. It was really a center, and in the first series against Missouri, they lose him for the year.
Yeah, Tate Johnson.
And so I'm not defending Auburn's offense because it was horrible against Missouri, as Missouri's was against Auburn. But when you're playing your third-string quarterback, getting the ball from the third-string center, who's really not a center, he was an offensive lineman. They had to move over impromptu to be the center. And y'all know what a difference that makes when your guy that's the captain of the offensive line, which is already mediocre to begin with, snapping the ball to a guy that was your third-string quarterback when the season started. And that is going up against LSU's defensive line, which may be the best defensive line in the SEC. And I just don't see, and I mean, I understand that if Harsin loses, there's a lot of folks want to fire him, and that may happen. But you want to be objective in evaluating what's happening. And any team that goes up against a major opponent playing the third-string quarterback and a third-string center has reasons to think that their offense may not be that effective. And that's what I expect to happen on Saturday. That's why I think LSU will win the game. But stranger things have happened. In fact, one happened in Norman, Oklahoma this past Saturday when Kansas State, who had lost to Tulane, goes in to as a 26-point underdog to Oklahoma, and Oklahoma never even has the lead in the game. In fact, they're never even tied in the game.
Yeah, Texas and Oklahoma.
They were run out from the start by a team that couldn't beat Tulane.
Texas and Oklahoma not looking SEC ready just yet, so that's going to be interesting when that happens. But
well, they're not. But on the other hand, they're kind of looking like a lot of SEC teams, quite frankly. So maybe they're going to fit right in. Other than the game guys. For the SEC is going to be Oklahoma. It's going to be Ole Miss and Kentucky.
That's the one I wanted to ask you about, Lynn, because Ole Miss, I've watched them a couple times. Their running backs, running game looks so good. Zach Evans is a kid who started his career at TCU, and now he's looking really good over there. But there's a little kid named Quinshawn Judkins, a little 3-star kid from the state of Alabama, who's kind of become their lead back now. Him and Evans kind of splitting time, but Judkins the most rushing yards. And that's a good early game Saturday morning coming on right after game day. But I wanted to bring up this. I heard Lane Kiffin earlier this week talking to the media and basically calling out the fans saying, I don't really like coming out at halftime and seeing like a high school crowd in the stands. Everybody's leaving at halftime. And to me, I say, well, Lane, play some better teams. Their 3 first home games have been against Troy, Central, Arkansas, and Tulsa. Like, if you play a better opponent, maybe fans are going to stick around.
Well, that's a valid point, but still, you ought to stay there and support your team. We were talking about it all the way back at SEC Media Days. I predicted that Ole Miss and Kentucky be undefeated right now. I mean, that's how I did it on my football picks. This doesn't surprise me. I had them being undefeated. I had both of them being undefeated. I picked Kentucky at the time. I'm kind of leaning toward Ole Miss right now, but it's not a strong lead. I wrote in a column at the start of the season that I thought the winner of the Ole Miss Kentucky game was going to be the dark horse in their division. If Ole Miss could beat Kentucky, I think they got a shot at beating Alabama. If Kentucky can beat Ole Miss, I think they got a shot at beating Georgia. These are very good teams. You got Jackson Dart and Levis for Kentucky at quarterback. Kentucky's got Rodriguez and another guy at running back, and like you said, Ole Miss has a strong running attack. Kentucky's got a better defense than Ole Miss. I think their defense is better than it was maybe the last couple of years. But I think this is a very good ball game between two very good teams, and I think the winner of this game is a dark horse. And if the game's close, unless one team just blows the other one out, I think either one of those teams can be a legitimate threat to Georgia and Alabama.
All right, we're going to get to more with Lynn Scarbrough in just a second, but thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. More in just a sec. Continue on here, Locked On SEC. We're continuing our conversation with our buddy Lynn Scarbrough of Lindy Sports. And Lynn, a couple of other big games in the SEC this weekend: A&M at Mississippi State, Alabama at Arkansas, Mizzou at Georgia at Mizzou. I'll just leave it open for you. Any game that you're feeling really strongly about this Saturday?
Yeah, I'll tell you one is not going to make your fans too happy, and I have not seen the line, but Mississippi State over Texas A&M.
Now, Lynn, I don't mean to hack off favorite.
I don't mean to hack off the audience. Yeah, what is the line in that game, guys?
Mississippi State is a 3.5-point home favorite against top 20 A&M, who just beat Miami and Arkansas, two ranked teams. They're ranked. Mississippi State isn't yet. Here the Bulldogs are a 3.5-point home favorite over the Aggies.
Yeah, and I think that's about right. I think Mississippi State may win by a little bit larger margin than that. The Arkansas game was a fluke. I mean, I hate to. I'm not trying to hack off the audience, but you had two fluky plays in that ball game that you just never see. I mean, it kind of reminded me of Florida beating Utah when Utah drove down to the 2-yard line and they're going to win the game, and some genius calls a pass across the middle from the 2-yard line, and the Florida guy makes a great diving interception. But why are you throwing a pass from the 2-yard line when you're down there with a chance to win the ball game? And that play that happened when Arkansas kicked I know the people in the audience saw the play. That's the flukiest thing I've about ever seen. And you take that back, and Arkansas wins. And I mean, they were kind of reasonably compared teams, but Appalachian State, which lost at home to James Madison, and James Madison's pretty good, but they beat Texas A&M to death. I know the score wasn't that big, but they kept the ball 42 minutes on the field, on Kyle Field. If A&M at home, if they're can't stop Appalachian State's offense from having the ball 42 minutes, what are they going to do on the road against Rogers, who I think is third in the country in touchdown responsibility for the season, and Mike Leach's air raid offense? And I just I'm not sure. I think maybe the worst performance by an SEC team this year has been Texas A&M against Appalachian State, and then like I say, I know Texas A&M people are glad to win, but I wouldn't count on that kind of play pulling them out in any other games. So if I've got to pick one, and seeing it's not even an upset, and that's the thing in your mind, just like you said, they're favored over nationally ranked Texas A&M. And Mississippi State is not because Mississippi State lost to LSU. And LSU is probably better than what we have been thinking they are. But I would, in my mind, and I think in the mind of most SEC people, Mississippi State beating A&M would be an upset. But the bettors in Las Vegas have made them a 3.5 point favorite, and the guys that make those lines don't do it for a hobby. So I would probably put some stock in that and take Mississippi State.
All right, Len, real quick before we let you go, give us a pick in the Alabama at Arkansas game.
Like Alabama, until Alabama loses, they got to prove to me they're going to lose first. Alabama's not an unbeatable team. Texas had them on the ropes. Texas then goes off and loses to Texas Tech. And Arkansas's loss last week was kind of a fluke to Texas A&M. But Arkansas's got a shot at them. But until Alabama shows me they can lose, I'm going with Alabama.
All right, Lynn, thanks as always for your time. We'll do it again next week.
All right, guys. Talk to y'all next week. Y'all have a good one.
All right, that's Lynn Scarbrough there of Lindy Sports joining us every week here on the show to take a look at some of the football games. That is going to do it for this edition of Locked On SEC. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Now go make your second listen. Check out some of our other great podcasts along the Locked On Podcast Network covering your team every day. Of course, we got Locked On Auburn. We got Locked On LSU. We got Locked On Bama, Georgia, Vols, Ole Miss. We get you covered just about every team that you want. Wherever you find your podcast, just search Locked On at your favorite school, and chances are you will find that podcast. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.